Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. This online panel is called Little Stories, Big Economies, the way of Taiwanese stories growing into all forms, presented by Taiwan Creative Content Agency, or TAICCA. My name is Feng-en too. I'm the chief editor at the Linking Publishing Company, and it's really my pleasure and my honor to host this panel discussion. This panel will introduce the OSMU strategy model and the right trading of Taiwanese titles and European cases. As the theme of Frankfurt Book Fair this year, Ideas That Move the World, we will share our ideas about transmedia storytelling and the trend of reading in the current post-pandemic era and the future with TAICCA and the Arts+. So with us are three very distinguished guests. Let me introduce our guests. First, Qingfang Hu. She's the president of TAICCA, and she's also a very distinguished author and writer. Our second guest is Gui Tan, the founder and chairman of the Greyhawk Agency. And our third guest is Beatrice Stauffer, joining us from Europe. She's a sales manager at Frankfurt Book Fair. So maybe let me begin with Qingfang. We are going to talk about this idea of OSMU. And I know this is a very important policy in Taiwan in recent years. Can you tell us what is this idea of OSMU, and how does TAICCA plan to support Taiwan's publisher or creative content producers to join this new trend?
Hi, I'm Qingfang. I work at TAICCA as a president. And TAICCA is a newly established agency from last year only. We are really new. And the full name for us is Taiwan Creative Content Agency. It means that we invest and promote creative content in Taiwan. And the way we see story, we really feel story is the original of every content. So in order for so-called content industry to grow, we have to look at how the storytelling style evolve in our modern society. Then, of course, when we take a look at everyone's lifestyle nowadays, then you will realize that the modern life is full of cultural content actually, especially in the so-called COVID-19 special year this year. We watch and we enjoy and we consume creative content in all kinds of devices, like cell phone, our computer. So even when we're waiting for train on the subway station, we probably still surrounded by creative content, like the big poster ads, or there are some kind of music in the background, and then even some big screen. And then, so we realize the story, the essence of creativity is travel everywhere. I'm a writer myself, so as a writer, we take pride in storytelling. We know that every small idea comes from human brain, and then you will evolve into becoming like a book. And the reason we use book because it's a very efficient way to tell ideas and share values. And in the modern time now, although now we look at the paper book, we feel like it's kind of old-fashioned, but everything still remains the same. Even when we just read the cell phone, we are still sharing ideas and sharing story, and we are still trying to communicate with each other. So in TAICCA, we understand that this storytelling, is a very oldest art form. It just travel and evolve as human civilization progress, and then you will take up all kind of form. So the publication is the same. That as a writer, I know when the book, when I finish it, and the story can only be come alive again when the reader pick up the book and read it. So instead of that kind of a so-called reading or understanding the story can come from books, and the book can be in words, it can be comic, and later on it can be adapted into a film, into a game, into a VR. So later on we're also going to share an example in Taiwan how a novel become a TV series, then it become a comic book, then it become a VR phone. And actually the book is the international rights is handled by a Gray company. So we really see that's the trend to go.
Yeah. You mentioned you are a writer yourself, and it's a very interesting point. And you're not just a writer, you are a distinguished author of many really good novels. And maybe we can come back to this point later and maybe share your thoughts about how you see this new trend of OSMU in terms of creating new stories, how they maybe have impact on your writing and so on and so forth. So maybe let me turn to Gray. You must be very familiar with this Frankfurt Book Fair. You've been there many times, right?
Yeah. This is I think this is the first. No, this is the second time I'm not going. The last time was 2 years ago when my baby daughter was born.
Okay. Can you share your experience with us with respect to this international license trading? How you say introduce Taiwan's books, novels, or other creative contents to the international market, and how this new idea of OSMU may have some impact or help you to introduce our works.
Yeah, so I started as an agent 15 years ago, and Taiwan, every year in Taiwan there are more than 40% of new books published are actually translated from abroad. And so our main job is actually to represent foreign books and sell them into the Taiwanese markets to be translated into Chinese. But I very quickly realized that there are very few Taiwanese books published abroad, and that was certainly the case in the past. And even the few titles that were actually published were done so by government support or for mainly academic purposes. So I had this dream, you can so to speak, that one day I want to bring our storytellers and our good books to the international market. And we started about 10 years ago, and I think that one of the breakthrough book is Mr. Wu Mingyi's The Man with the Compound Eyes. And that was the first Taiwanese novel to be represented by an agent and sold to a major English language publisher. It was sold to Random House in the US and UK. And to date it has been published in 15 countries. Even we even sold rights to India and Ethiopia. And I think in terms of OSMU, that is what I'm focusing mainly, which is we have a book published in Taiwan, and I want this book to be read by as many countries as possible. And sometimes it can be translated into 12, even 20 languages. And that's the first step. And then as Qingfang just told, we can also try to make it develop into a TV series or a film. For example, this is another Wu Mingyi book, The Magician on the Skywalk. There is a major TV series in production, which is, I think it's coming out next year.
Next year, yes.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest budget Taiwanese film TV series ever. And it has also been adapted into a comic book, which we just published this year. So that's the kind of OSMU we've experienced.
And because they produce the TV series and then they recreate the environment in his novel, and now that environment is preserved in a VR form. So that's how it travel again into all kind of form.
Yeah, I still remember the news when they built this environment, and you can just walk in and as if you travel across times, and it's a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so Beatrice, so I want you to ask you to maybe share also your experience, your thoughts on this new trend of OSMU. Is this something that's also popular or well discussed in Europe, or can you speak from maybe your experience in participating in this Frankfurt Book Fair?
Yes, so first of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. I'm very glad we can share our ideas here. So I'll, first of all, I think I'm going to share Frankfurt Book Fair's story on transmedia rights dealings, so where we come from and where we are going to, hopefully, the way forward. So like no other happening in the publishing industry, the Frankfurt Book Fair is activating global networks and opening future markets, and I think that's what we are seeing here. The trading of publication and translation rights has been the core business that is happening at Frankfurt Book Fair, with rights holders and rights buyers attending from all over the globe. And the heart of the rights trading at Frankfurt Book Fair is the LitAg. I guess Gray is familiar with this location. So that's a literary agent center with over 800 agents attending and doing their business at the agents' tables. So this year, as we all know, the Frankfurt Book Fair will happen digitally, and also the rights trading has been transferred to a digital platform. It's called Frankfurt Rights. Again, a platform that focuses on different tools where rights holders and rights buyers can exchange and do their business. But of course, as it was already mentioned, the market for publisher isn't limited to publication and translation rights only. There are untapped opportunities in merchandising out items, in brand licensing, in selling adaptation rights for the TV series and film productions, and many other media formats. For example, audio content has become very popular. And those deals, they can be very profitable for rights holders, because sometimes these collaborations actually, they bring business partners from other sectors that operate with very different budgets, sometimes very large budgets. I'm thinking of like blockbuster cinemas and game productions. So this can be very profitable for publishers. But in order to be successful in this, rights holders need to have access to a maximum number of markets, other sectors, to exploit their IP. And since these different sectors of the creative industries function quite independently from each other, most players are not really working beyond their core sector, their core field, as it is very hard to reach out to other partners in other sectors. So this is one of the reasons why 6 years ago we introduced the Arts+. The Arts+ is the gateway between publishing and the international creative industries. The focus of the Arts+ is in trading creative intellectual property, CIP. This comprises ideas, concepts, text, images, audio content from all sectors. So we bring together at Arts+ publishing professionals and content professionals from other sectors, and we offer them the opportunity to form new partnerships. At the Arts+, we showcase innovative content, creative business models, and also, very important, creative tech that actually enables content to travel from one format to another. So I'm very glad actually to partner with TAICCA. Arts+ and TAICCA form a partnership for the Arts+ program and further activities. So I think this is very suitable, because we do share the same vision of storytelling, and also we are working in the same direction in order to make stories move forward in the future, and being accessible to a maximum audience.
Right. When I was listening to what Beatrice is talking about, I was thinking, it sounds like it's pretty familiar to what TAICCA plans to do, because I remember one of the goals of TAICCA is really to internationalize and also to integrate Taiwan's different sectors of Taiwan's cultural industry. I was wondering whether, Qingfang, you can say a little bit more about how TAICCA, your plans, or how you try to do this promotion.
Yeah, we were set up last year, and our role is between government and the private sector. And what we do is that indeed that we were in charge of 30 million US dollar to invest in Taiwan cultural content industry, and then to promote those works overseas. And so that's why one of the reasons we started a liaison with Frankfurt Book Fair right away, because we are here to connect with the world, not only to promote Taiwanese cultural content, but also looking for opportunity to increase international collaboration. Again, this is not only about promoting our own content, it's also about communicate and connect with other societies. And we Taiwanese people want to contribute our own values and share ideas with others. And the way we do it is, go back to the OSMU concept, is that we come to Frankfurt and we're looking for international partnership, but we also cross promoting our content. For example, that right now when we go to Cannes Festival, we actually join the sector of called the shooter book, which Taiwanese people never really do that. But we bring books to Cannes Festival. We also bring books to Busan Film Festival, which is happening now. So what we do is that really just feel that the IP can be shared and can be adapted into not only in different kind of language, but also in different kind of art form. As we just say that earlier in the opening of this panel, that story need to be told over and over again. And what kind of form, what kind of language, it doesn't matter as long as it makes sense to the audience. So this is that's our strategy, and that's our goal to promote and connect in different kind of international markets.
Yeah. So it seems to me that all of you are all trying to help content creators to move across boundaries,
Yes.
National boundaries, or move across different sectors in the cultural industry, and also move across different media. But I would imagine that it's really a big challenge for all of the creative creators. Have you encountered any problems when you are doing this kind of promotions, or help people to move different fields?
I think for the creator, they still remain pure. They can still do whatever they want. It's more like up to the market how they how can perceive and receive the content, right? We need to find out all kind of channels and develop all kind of form to develop the content to different market. Maybe Greg can share more.
I think there are two major challenges. One is the language barrier. You need to prepare as much English materials as possible. So for fiction or for nonfiction, you need to have at least the part of a sample translation in English, preferably if you can have the whole book in English. But that is a very big investment, and very few publishers are able to afford that. So once you have some English material, everyone in the world can read it. And that really makes a difference, because very often we would, and this is from our experience, we would translate it, let's say 100 pages of a novel, and we send it out to foreign publishers. And we have this American editor who says, oh, I've read it, I really like it, but is there more? It's not enough for me to persuade our salespeople, and it can be true, but it can also be an excuse. So if you have the whole book in English, there is really no excuse. You can force them to read the whole thing, and that really made a difference. Last year in Frankfurt, we have this thriller called The Stir-Up Sniper by very famous Taiwanese author Zhang Guoli, and we prepared a very good full English translation and sold German, French, English, and Dutch rights just around the Frankfurt Book Fair. And that's the language barrier. And the second challenge is the way to present and to package the content. As I mentioned, I started as an agent to represent foreign books into the Taiwanese markets. So the good part is I've seen how top agents around the world do their business, how they pitch a book, how they package it, and how they write their pitch letters. And you can say that I've learned from the best. And so when it's my turn to package our books to in the international markets, I think I've learned some tricks to do comparisons or to best present them to an international buyer.
Beatrice, can you also share your maybe your point of view and maybe also some cases that you have participated in, like help people to translate or to sell their license?
Yes, actually I want to add a couple of comments to what Gray is saying. I totally agree with the points he's mentioning, and I can only stress from my side as well. It is very important how you present your content, and I think pitching becomes more and more important. It becomes very important when you actually go to other sectors. Let's say you're pitching something that's beyond translation rights or publication rights. Let's say you go to the film sector, you go to a gaming show, and you meet with the games publishers. I think it's very important to get familiar with the code of every, and also somehow the culture of every sector. It is done differently in different industries. So I think that's a very important point. It's also very important to build networks when it comes to other sectors beyond the publishing industry. It's not always easy. It takes up a lot of time to get familiar with the players, to know who is interested in what, where are the possibilities to pitch, and in what way do I pitch my content. And then another point that hasn't been mentioned here, but I think it is very, very important, is when it comes to the rights. So what rights do you as a publisher withhold? What are your rights and what are the author's rights? We have to be very clear about this. And we realize that when we talk to for example, to players from the licensing sector, it is a very complex situation of who withholds what kind of rights and what kind of rights you're actually allowed to sell. What rights have to be cleared before. So I think for a publisher, most of the time correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, most of the time when you sign contracts with creators or with an author, you mainly talk about publication rights, translation rights, maybe audio rights, maybe film rights. But when it comes to merchandising items, to brand licensing, most of the time those rights are not part of the contract. So do you add something to the contract, or for every single right you have to renegotiate? So I think there are also tricks. It's not impossible, but it's very oftentimes publishers are not considering this in the beginning when they establish the original contract with the creator. So this is really something to take into consideration when you think of taking this business further and beyond the publishing industries. And maybe I can do a little bit of self-promotion here. We have in the Arts+ program, so which is being streamed on this channel, a session. It's a masterclass for publishers. It's called Brand Licensing for Publishers. The masterclass is given by Marty Brookstein, and he works for Licensing International, and that's international trade organization of licensing agencies. So these people are really the experts, and we have been talking to them for a while, and so he was really suggesting that he gives he wants to really set the basis for publishers so they can actually start negotiating with for example, licensing agencies. So this will take place on the same channel. It's October 14th, and it's at 1:30 German time. So I really encourage publishers who are interested in doing rights deals beyond publishing to really attend this class in order to get some ideas what that means actually.
I just want to say that in Taiwan we also have these rights programs, TAICCA actually, I think we just started this week, is also like a talents program that we train people to understand the rights. I think Beatrice is absolutely right. When you want to talk about this kind of transmedia revolution, you actually need to be careful about the copyrights, and because rights is where the economy will come from. So this is the whole point that we are having discussion today. And what Beatrice say is also quite interesting, because I'm a writer myself. I'm an older generation writer. So what happened to us is that all the contract we signed before 2000, we are not. There's no digital books. There's audio book. We only assign contract for the paper books, and so right now all the old contract need to be new negotiate, and before nobody adapt our book into TV series or film and whatever. So I think this is very interesting concept we really need to talk about. But maybe Greg can also share that we are doing this rights agents program. Yes, we do it every year.
Yeah,
right?
so it's called Taipei Rights Workshop.
Yeah.
It's actually modeled on this fellowship program. I think it was initiated by Frankfurt Book Fair. I was a fellow in 2010, and it was really impressive. During that week, the program took you around Germany, different cities, to visit different German publishers. You really learned about the industry there, to meet a lot of people, and more importantly, you become friends with the other international publishers. So we began doing something similar in Taiwan in 2000. In 2013, and this year it's moving to TAICCA. And one of the important things is we don't only do visits. I mean, we invite international publishers. But visiting is not only the whole part. There's a very important part is the workshop. Basically, they have to act as speakers to share their knowledge and to teach the Taiwanese publishing people how to sell rights, because, to be honest, we don't know how to sell rights. And it's been going on for a number of years, and we've brought more than 100 international publishers to Taiwan already. And this year we are innovating again, because no one can travel, so we're going to do a mix of physical and also pre-recording sessions, and we'll see how it goes.
So, with respect to this international trading, you've been working on this issue for many years, as you mentioned. Do you see any changes or any trends in terms of selling Taiwanese books to the international market?
I do think there is a growing interest and awareness of Asian contents, Asian books. And I don't want to generalize, but for a Western publisher, a European publisher, very often a book from Taiwan, from China, from Hong Kong, from Japan, from Korea, to them that's all the Eastern part of the world, that's all Asian. So any success from any books out of these countries can help pave the road for future successes. For example, Hong Kong's The Vegetarian, that's a Korean book. It won the International Booker Prize a few years ago, and that paved the road for Convenience Store Women, which is a Japanese bestseller, and then in turn paved the road for another Korean book, Kim Ji-young, born 1982. And for example, I am now submitting a Taiwanese novel called The Mermaid's Tale by Li Weijing. And again, we're positioning this book as the next great Asian feminist storyteller. And I think that's something we can really help each other, so to speak.
I'm curious how you see Taiwan's creative content in this international market. Any trends or changes in recent years? Or what you plan to promote Taiwan's content?
I think this is interesting because I really see that the reason Taiwanese creative content become slowly back to the spotlight in the past 2 years is also because somehow people realize that they share the same value with us. I really feel that way. I really feel like as a writer, my writing speaks to them. And because if you just sell your flavor, like exotic flavor, then people can maybe get interested to, they will take one look, but they don't really addicted to your content because they feel you're far away. It's the same thing like food, right? There's always some kind of food that you will taste once in your life, but there's some kind of food you are like, oh, it's very good. People need to feel they can relate to the content or the values we created together as a living community that people can relate to us and that they feel that they can speak to us and have a proper discussion about life, about modern society, and that's when our creative content makes sense to them too. Because they feel whatever problems we try to discuss is something they can face and share. Like the same thing like Gray just saying that maybe woman's situation is something everyone concerned, and then they like to know what you're doing. It's like a sister sitting at the table and then share some experience over the dining table. So I think that's when the content start to make sense to them. Because we are not so distant and something that very far away, and then they don't know what we're doing, and they just have a glimpse of the exotic culture. And it's something maybe because the internet happened, maybe because COVID-19 happened.
Right.
Somehow we feel closer to the world, and the world feel we are closer too.
Right, we're facing the same challenges in this
Exactly.
maybe a more globalized world environment. I think,
Yeah.
for example, Umi's novels is dealing with a lot of environmental issues, and that's something that maybe people in other countries can also relate to.
Exactly.
So, Beatrice, I'm curious about how your observations on the issue we just talked about. Is there any trends?
Yes, I think what my two other fellow panelists said, that it is totally right. I think what is very important that you can somehow align to international trends. So we mentioned like feminist issues. So if you are able to have one novel that has really become into the international spotlight with that focuses on one issue that is a kind of an international trend, then I think it's easier for others to follow. It's so I think Gray, he knows. I'm sure you're aware of this. When you can say this is the next, and then you can actually say you can mention an international title that was very successful. This makes it much easier because people can see kind of a lineage of where it comes from, and also they have already some kind of talking point of how they are going to promote the novel. So when there's a winner of a major international prize like the Booker, when that was mentioned previously, or like the Nobel Prize, of course, from the region or with a similar issue, I think that's always a very good point. I think it is also important to have the backing of a government body, and in this case it would be TAICCA. So I think it's very important for agents and publishers to have this strong government support, financial support, but also structural support, to have a governmental body that actually understands and is listening to the concerns of a certain industry. So this really helps a lot. And also if you can say that because translation is very expensive very often. So if there is financial support by a government body for translation from a language to another, that also is very helpful. And I think it is important to have like individual pioneers in the sector. So I think great, this is your role, I'd say. So if you already have a contact, then it's always easier to get connections to your fellow agents. So I think I'd say these 3 points are from my point of view, are the most important ones. So it's like really you can align to an international trend. You have a strong government body that is supporting the sector, and you already have some experienced people who bring in expertise and knowledge and the network.
So we talk about the challenges of introducing Taiwanese works to the international market. I wonder if we can also talk about some successful cases in terms of whether selling books to foreign countries or introducing this OSMU model to Taiwanese creative contents. Have any cases to share or some plans that you are currently carrying out?
I want to mention the book called The Stories from the Sahara by the legendary author San Mao. It was her kind of travelogue slash fiction slash memoir. It was published in the 70s. It was hugely popular in Taiwan and China, sold millions of copies, but has never been translated abroad for some reason. I mean, it was published in the Reader's Digest in the abridged edition a long time ago, but never in book form. And as we all know that San Mao's husband is Spanish, so naturally you would think that there should be a Spanish language edition. We took over the representation in 2000, I think it was 5 years ago, and at the time there was already a Catalan Spanish publisher very, very interested in the book and wanted to make an offer for it. And we also met this enthusiastic Chinese to English translator who volunteered to translate a large portion of the book into English. So on the one hand, we have a free English material. On the other hand, we have strong interest from the Spanish publisher. And so what we did is to connect the dots. We produced this package and we sent out information that this is a legendary book author and here's the materials you can read, and we have a Spanish offer. And we've sold the book to the UK, to the US, to Norway, to Italy, Poland, Japan, Korea, and even Burma. And yeah, I think that's one of our success stories. And it's really about connecting the dots, I think.
So I also see books on your table. Mentioned that Wumi's novel, but you also have a comic version of that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the comic book version came from, I think it was 1 year there was this reading festival, and in which the author took place in, and one of the program is to have a conversation with him and a couple of different illustrators, comic artists, and they came up with some concept arts, and it started from there. And then they talked about, would it be possible to adapt this book into a comic book, and it took about, I think, almost 6 years. It was a long time in the making, and in the end there were 2 artists and each did half of the book, and the author also wrote like a brand new original story for the comic book only. So to make that the comic book version is something else entirely, and it's almost like a collector's item. And this was published earlier this year, and when the book came out, the publisher also did a very cool exhibition and the Taiwan comic base.
Which is also managed by TAICCA.
Yes.
We do everything.
So they showcase some of the original manuscripts. They have some very creative exhibition with some of VR, I think. And yeah, I feel that if a book or an author is successful enough, you would begin to receive interest from different sectors. So in the first place, we only wanted to sell translation rights. But then, so this guy wants to adapt it into the comic book, and that one wants to make it into a movie and film. And to be honest, in the beginning, we didn't know how to do it. So I really want to go to that panel that Beatrice just told about, the merchandising and licensing, because I think that's so important. We received requests to adapt the book to stage play, to musicals, to all kinds of stuff. And we really need to. It's a learning process to learn different sectors. What are the terms? What is the acceptable what is the language in different industries?
I want to emphasize on the VR experience of this IP is because when those artists in charge of the TV series, they set up a very beautiful environment for shooting, and then people talking about that is such a waste and a pity of course, it's a pity to waste away all the elaborate setup. And but people talk about how to preserve that setting, and so people can visit almost like a theme park. But because of all kind of issues, that it cannot be preserved just like that. So that's how the Taiwanese company called Feng-en move in and do a VR preservation. But then it become a new art form. People, when you wear the headset, of course you enter the landscape, the environment right away, and then you become the protagonist of the story yourself, and you start your own journey. So this is why it's interesting to do this kind of transmedia adaptation, because the story, every time you take a form, it becomes a new life, and then people actually can enjoy the story, and it become a kind of unique experience for them. So I think it's very interesting. Yes.
We've also received interest to adapt this into a video game.
Yeah.
Nothing concrete yet, but I'll be very interested to see how that develops, because I used to be a pretty heavy gamer before becoming an agent.
Are you?
Yeah, I used to be.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
And I think one of the most famous cases would be the Polish game The Witcher, which is developed by fantasy novels by Andrzej Sapkowski. And the original novels was very successful, but the game really went on to become another level, and now it's almost like a national industry, and now it's a Netflix series, and that's the kind of OSMU model we would very love to try to do.
Yeah, I know many of my friends watch that series, and we hope that this Taiwanese content can also receive this international attention. Beatrice, do you have any response to that?
Well, maybe I can mention here maybe one case or several cases that are familiar to me, maybe more from a European environment. So I wanted to tell you to develop briefly on one IP that is called Moomin. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a kid. Yeah, I think it's also well known in Asia. So the Moomins is the author of the Moomins is Tove Jansson. She was born in 1914. The Moomins are central characters of a series of Moomin books that she wrote and designed. The adventurous Moomin family live in a house in Moomin Valley, and they have many adventures with their various friends. So that's the baseline of the story and the universe. They appeared for the first time in a book published in 1945 in Finland. So she's Finnish. So you see the story has been going on for a while, and actually the Moomin characters are celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. So in the beginning, there were the books that were written in the mid-40s and also published by Finnish publishers. Of course, there were translation rights sold quite quickly. So that would be like more of the traditional business that was done initially. In the 50s, there was the first theater play that was staged with Moomin characters. In the late 60s, there was the first animated Moomin series produced in Japan, and they were very popular in Japan, and I guess that's also why they are known more broadly in Asia, because of this very initial interest by a Japanese animation studio. And then later on in the 90s, there was a theme park called Moomin World that opened its doors in Finland. And the same year, there was a company set up that's called Moomin Licensing that brought a lot of new products, Moomin products, to the market. And then today, it's a very, very, very broad universe. There is a Moomin museum in Finland only dedicated to the characters and to this universe. There's an interactive exhibition also with VR work that is touring the world, that has been to many famous exhibition halls. There's a newly animated TV series, and there's also a theme park in Japan called the Moomin Valley. So I think this is very successful development of an IP, and I'm quite fond of this because it has grown historically. The characters and the universe are beautifully designed, and it kind of conveys, to me at least, like a Nordic lifestyle, like a Moomin way of life that is very fun and laid back. So that's why I wanted to mention it here. I think it's very high quality, and again, I think actually the masterclass I mentioned earlier, which will be given by Marty Brooks, and he will develop on this, and he has also another example, not from the kids, because there's a lot of examples for children IP. But I think when it comes to brand licensing, of course, there's also a different market, and he will also say something about the BBC brand, what is their strategy, and how they work. I think that will be very important. And I also would like to mention here another example from Quebec, Canada. And there's also a panel we're staging with the director of Édition Alto, who's a Quebec publisher, and he will be talking about an IP that is still under development. It's called The Evaporated, and it's a transmedia project from its inception that illustrates the power of creating a universe and not only a book. So I think that is very important. It's another approach. So from the beginning, he is kind of opening up the universe to different formats that can be developed later. So I also very much recommend you to join this event that takes place on October 14th at 1:30, again on this platform.
That sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Can you think of any projects that's going on in Taiwan that's similar to what Beatrice just said? This kind of transmedia storytelling, creative content.
Yes, the Detention. Detention is the best-selling film in box office last year in Taiwan. It started as a game, and then people adapted into a film, and it was hugely successful. Then it became a theater, and it became exhibition. So actually, it's still happening now. People can go into the exhibition. Again, it's like what I just said earlier. It's like people looking for experience. So they transform the cultural content into more like a live experience, living experience. And I think that's interesting that you become like a physical memory almost.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. There's also a spin-off novel, and it's been turned into a TV series this year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
it
really,
yeah.
Are they creating VR versions of that? Can you imagine?
Wow, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that, but I think the gaming itself probably can be a VR.
Well, the VR would probably be too scary.
Yeah.
It's a horror game.
Yeah,
so.
it's about white terror in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
scary.
Detention is about the white terror experience in Taiwan. So yeah, it could be scary. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we should move to the last part of our forum and talk about the future of this transmedia storytelling and OSMU. One thing that we should all, one of the major reasons that we are doing this online panel is COVID-19. And how do you see this? Is there any impact that this pandemic will bring to international rights trading or creative content production?
It's certainly created a lot of exhaustion from Zoom meetings for us all. And to be honest, the best thing about Frankfurt Book Fair is that everyone is there. And you don't know who you'll run into. And there are a lot of these random meetings that turn into opportunities. And that's the best part. And we just heard, I think 2 days ago, that the Hessische Hof, one of the biggest, the best hotels where a lot of pre-book fair meetings happen, is about to close because of the COVID-19. It's really, really sad because it's really it's an institution. It's one of the most historical side. We've been there every year and run into a lot of people there. So I think that part would be really difficult to replace. But again, people are really trying to be creative and to come up with new ideas. For example, I know a Spanish literary agency, they're hosting a series of author webinars. So for example, they're highlighting 5 titles, 5 books for this Frankfurt, and they would host each author a webinar, so interested editors can take part in it and to chat with the author. And this is something you can never do before, because usually you bring in an author to Frankfurt after he or she is being published worldwide, not before. And this kind of bring the author to the process of selling the rights, to be take part in the process, which is not necessarily a good thing, but in this case I think it's fun, it's something new, and to be able to interact with the author, I think that helps with the editor's consideration as well. Yeah. Another thing, I think e-book reading and audio books are going to grow even further. And this year, many people are saying that it's the podcast industry has an explosive growth in Taiwan. And we're really hoping that the next step would be audiobooks, which we're seeing is very, very big in Europe and the US.
We do see that the sales of ebooks are growing pretty rapidly this year.
Exactly, yeah. I think the number one vid reading device called Remote in Taiwan, they really see the ebooks have a spike rise this year. So actually people probably read more.
Yeah.
When they are staying at home.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually we don't, because Taiwan didn't exactly have the real lockdown, so we haven't seen the spike of book sales as we've seen in Europe and the US. The book sales were probably going down or being about the same, but I think in Europe and US, UK was like going down, and then they had this spike. Yeah.
So Green mentioned one of the bad things about Frankfurt Book Fair is people can go there and meet each other. And we used to have so-called Taiwan Night.
Yes, and it's still happening, but you'll be online. And we found a very charming, extremely beautiful bistro in Dadaocheng, one of the oldest area community in Taipei. And we're going to have a bunch of publishers, writers, and musicians, and talk about the publication, literature, and everything. Yeah.
So that's still happening during the Frankfurt Book Fair this year as well. Beatrice, you have any thoughts on the future trends that's going to be influenced by this COVID pandemic?
Well, what we've been seeing this year during the pandemic is a very strong sense of solidarity in the community, and also a strong sense of community, actually, and the need to keep in touch with the community members. So there have been different initiatives in the publishing for publishers to stay in touch while all of the book fairs were actually cancelled this year. So there's this very famous group that is, I'm sure, familiar to you, is Publishers Without Borders. That's a Facebook group that has become very active as soon as the international lockdown started, and there's a lot of exchange. There's a lot of, it's very informal. It's really like Hessischer Hof, but all year round. There's other different networks and initiatives that emerged in the last month. There's a network for more diversity in publishing. So I think all of this really shows that publishing is an international community, and there's a strong need to stay in touch, and that during this exceptional year of 2020, this is done through online meetings, Zoom meetings that are all exhausting us. I agree with you, but I think it will be going on for a while, but there will be also after the pandemic, and we'll all meet again, and I think everybody's looking forward to this. Maybe one thing I can also mention here is our own initiative that is called Pitch Your Zip, and again, ZIP is standing for Creative Intellectual Property. That's a closed Facebook group that offers actually a forum to market creative content and opens doors to content professionals worldwide. You have the possibility as a group member to pitch intellectual property. So it can be anything. It can be a book, It can be a game, it can be animation, whatever that you want to sell, you can pitch to the group, and then you have the possibility to exchange and to get attention and to do like marketing. It's a 1,000 members strong community that's still growing, and we really hope that there will be more people on the platform, there will be more interaction, and I think really this format of pitching and like recording a pitch, I think that has also become very important, so that you have like like a minimum of technical skills to like kind of record yourself, that you also are aware of the codes more or less that are established in how you pitch, of the format, of the length of it, and then you can, I think that's really how you market your content right now. Something that's short and sweet and condensed, and you can easily like send around or actually upload to platforms where you have possibilities to pitch. There's different industries events that also have pitching sessions for publishers. We do take publishers to the Cannes Film Festival, to Toronto, to the Biennale, and to other festivals also, and they have the possibility to pitch in front of producers. So I think that's a very important skill of the future. There's webinars that are available on the internet, and maybe also TAICCA has webinars and trainings of how you do that. I think that's a very important skill for publishers and agents in the future.
We all agree that Zoom meeting or online meeting is really exhausting, but it's still good. I mean, during this pandemic period, we can still get in touch with each other, and we can speak to Beatrice. So taking this opportunity, I wonder if you have any thoughts on how we can work, internationally. We can work Taiwan's creative content producers or TAICCA can work with European institutions or agents. Is there any project that we can imagine or you can propose?
I think in terms of international communication, I think people are reaching out to each other to understand each other. So we are looking for any kind of institution globally that who's willing to build a platform to have some kind of systematic translation or workshop or any kind of collaboration. We of course I think that for us that our role is to provide support to private sector like Gray, that they are the forerunner, they are doing business. So TAICCA is different from MOC, is that we are within the industry. So whatever they need, and to open up their horizon, that we are pushing that the economy to grow. So that's how we looking for any kind of partner who can help us to build a system that within the system people can talk to each other and work together, and that will be beautiful future for us.
Yeah, I think in the post COVID-19 era, it's somehow easier to reach, to be connected to other people. I mean, before you have to travel to Frankfurt, but now if you know someone, you can probably just email and set up an online meeting. And before, we don't do that as often, or we're not used to doing it as much. But now that seems to become the norm, like just doing a phone call or something. So I think that's good. It probably means more direct contact and exchange that can help us to reach more the international buyers or collaborators.
Beatrice, you have any suggestions for, say, Taiwanese publishers or producers, how we can collaborate with European institutions or agents?
We'll be putting a lot of effort in actually making digital formats work. So, like the formats that we are offering the week of the Frankfurt Book Fair, with panels like this, but also networking opportunities where you can meet new contacts. We're kind of trying to take established formats that happen during Frankfurt Book Fair physically on site. We try to take them on the digital arena. It's a new experience for all of us, so we'll see how it works, but it will work when the participants actually do join and when they participate actively. So we also rely on everybody's support for this. So we need everybody to make it work, but we are very confident and very excited about it. Beyond the book fair, we'll try and expand our network of partner network with other events where we can give access to other sectors. So we've been working, as I mentioned earlier, with different film festivals, but also with Gamescom, with Anti-Animation Film Festival, and there's new partnerships in the making, and we'll try and offer access to these new networks to all our partners. We're also hoping, that's also something TAICCA is working on, to really set up a tool that gives a permanent possibility to actually market content and to make it visible to an international audience. For now, for us, it's a Facebook group, which has been working quite well. But of course, this is not Facebook is not the ideal platform for something like this. We're working on something more with a more professional appeal than Facebook. That will be very important for us. I'd say these are the 2 points I want to mention here.
I think that either old-fashioned reader or old-fashioned writer like me have to admit that after the COVID-19, that the reading experience will change. So we have to learn and adapt to read on all kind of device. And this is what we talk about, how the e-books or audio books rise actually very, very fast in this year. And although the life in Taiwan, because we are lucky, our civil society work very tightly, so we got spared by this pandemic. Look at us, we don't need to wear masks, we have gathering, and our life continue normally. But however, we can see the overseas Chinese language market is reaching out to us because they are quarantined at home and they want our content. So I think also, as we always say, that we enter this so-called old age society. People live longer, but however, we are losing our eyesight, and so the audiobook actually become quite important. That's one reason podcast is become popular too. For young people, they divide their life into all kind of activity every day. So they are walking, they are taking the subway, and they are driving, they are doing sports in the gym. So they listen to books. That's why the audio become quite important. So I just feel people, let's never give up hope. People read books. They just read books in different kind of form, and we just need to adapt to the new lifestyle of modern life, and continue to deliver the content to them.
Okay, so we probably have to close up this forum. I wonder if you have anything that you want to add before we close up. Beatrice?
Yeah, maybe I just add here also information on audio publishing. So one of the part of our P2B program during Frankfurt Book Fair is Frankfurt Conference, and one strength solely focuses on audio content, and it will take place on October 15th, and it starts at 3 p.m. So I really encourage people who are interested in audio, and I think it's important, as this was mentioned. So we have a 3 hours conference only focusing on the future of audio and, what the subscription model means, subscription economy. There will be the presentation of a white paper, Listen and Read, the battle for attention. So they will also talk about audio rights. So I really encourage people to join if they're interested in developing audio content.
Yeah, and this is one reason this year, since we'll participate in the Frankfurt Book Fair online, that the way we build our Taiwan pavilion is actually present the audio part, that we have every translator narrate the book. They translate it. The Taiwanese book, they translate it in their own native mother tongue. So that will be interesting. So we welcome everyone to listen to the books online.
It's maybe one thing that new technologies help us doing this promotion and introduction
Yes.
of Taiwanese works to the world. Gray, you have anything you want to add?
I've been addicted to audiobooks for 2 years now. I mean, I do most of my reading in English these days in audio. Last year I spent 1,200 hours
Wow.
a year on
Wow.
audiobooks. And I listened to more than 100 books.
Wow.
And that's like, I've never read so much in my life. And it's
Gray, do you commute?
What?
Do you
Do you
commute?
do you commute daily?
No, actually
on a
no.
train or in a car?
Actually no. So I walk to the office. That's 15.
You're taking long showers.
Yes. Wow. So I really want to see how the audio market develops in Taiwan, in the Chinese language market. I think there is huge potential, and that's something I'm really looking forward to pay more attention to.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts every day when I drive to my office, and I may try audiobooks sometime.
Yeah.
So that's it. I want to thank everyone who's listening to this forum, and TAICCA. If you are interested in work with Taiwan's creative content producers or publishers, you can contact TAICCA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for participating.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.